What is up, everybody? I'm No Lex Given, and do you like apples? Because you're gonna love these apples. Today, we are going good boy hunting. I get off to a really powerful start with Pied Piper, and from there, I decide that I'm going to hard force a good boy comp, and we'll see how that works out, but for right now, we'll talk about this start. I cast a Shrink Drink on turn 1, and that makes me have a really cheap shop here. Because we're Pied Piper, we have a whole bunch of extra things in our shop, so I'm not going to be able to pick up everything all at once. I'll just pick up these things, and then I'll lock onto this Genie's Wish plus Golden Chicken plus Lonely Prince for 2.2. But I think this is a pretty nice start here. Getting to play 3 characters on 2.1 is always fun. And I like the Genie's Wish because I have the Wizard's Familiar, and the Genie's Wish gives us another Shrink Drink. So now we get to pick up everything in this shop yet again. We're actually 1 gold short. So I'll either have to sell like the Lonely Prince or the Baby Dragon if I want to pick up this pair of Humpty Dumptys, and I think that I do. A pair of Humpty Dumptys I think seems pretty sweet, so I'm going to sell out of the Baby Dragon and then play this shop from here. Can only imagine if I would have cast that Genie's Wish on turn 2, but it was just too much of a risk that I could roll like a free roll or something and wind up not being able to pick up everything in the shop. So we'll just roll with this, but looking pretty strong into 3.0 when we get offered a pretty interesting shop. There's a few animals here. There's also a royal to flip over our Lonely Prince, and I want to pick up Blind Mouse because I'm playing Pied Piper. The other animals are both pairs, so what I wind up doing is just buying and selling the Sherwood Shore Shot, picking up both of the other pairs of animals, and then I'm going to wind up selling off this Golden Chicken to pick up the remaining Blind Mouse in the shop. Again, because we're Pied Piper, maybe we can find some additional blind mice and get some fun treasures out of that. Still feeling very strong for this stage of the game, though. My opponent also has a Humpty Dumpty on 3.0, so I think one of my Humpty Dumptys is going to wind up cracking. Things were looking very good for us. And this happens to me sometimes, especially with Humpty Dumpty, is it just makes the game crash. So it's a little bit unfortunate to have everything crash because everything seemed like it was going so well, you know? And I don't know exactly what the future holds with a crash like this, if we're gonna be okay. I'm talking about the FTX situation going on right now. Obviously, I don't know anything more than you guys do, but hopefully everything works out and we can continue to play Storybook Brawl, but we'll see. We'll see what happens for the future of this game. We're going to lock onto a Wish Upon a Star on 3.1, as well as some nice things in the shop. And if we can slay with the Kitty Cup Purse, which it looks like we are lined up well to do, then we'll be able to pick up a 3-cost card and buy the Wish Upon a Star, so that way we can potentially win the Wish Upon a Star too. I saved the egg in my hand, so that way I could play the egg on this Wish Upon a Star turn as well, and just guarantee that we are going to be getting the win here. And I think I'm lined up to take this stag. I'm thinking, okay, the stag can pump up the donkey and one of our other backline characters. That seems pretty reasonable. But the other thing I could do is sell 3 more characters from my hand and pick up a mummy, which I might want to do. That could just give us a little bit extra oomph that helps us win this Wish Upon a Star. And I've talked about this in the past, but once I pick up a Wish Upon a Star, and generally like a turn like this, I had planned it out for a turn beforehand too, then I just want to go all in and sink all of my resources into trying to win the combat, because that's a bonus XP. So it really is worth it, and I'm going to sell off all of my benched units to pick up a mummy, and hopefully that makes us a little bit stronger. We're sacrificing our egg here as well. The mummy actually winds up not mattering at all, as it just dies to my opponent's Ring of Meteors, but we get a Puffy in the back line, a Puff rather, and that bumped up donkey is going to be enough to allow us to win that combat, as well as that sacrificed egg. So now we are on 4.2, 2 XP up on the rest of the lobby, and I want to keep this lead going. I'm going to feed my goat to the Kraken and look for some more tier 4 characters to power up our board. Wind up finding a Lady of the Lake, which is pretty good. Then I also find a copycat, which isn't particularly impressive on this board, but it is something really cool with Pied Piper, because basically the strategy, and this is kind of an old strategy from back in the day, the interaction has been nerfed a lot because it was really, really strong, and Pied Piper used to be like the best hero in the game, but you would just take all the copycats and all of the good boys and pump up your team to absolutely massive numbers. So because we are ahead on both XP and feeling strong, I'm going to try to go for it and just put together a copycat board with a bunch of good boys. The main incentive being that Pied Piper gets to see additional animals, and then that lets you find additional copycats and good boys. So that can be a really, really consistent strategy on this hero. Wind up locking on to another Wish Upon a Star, and I'm gonna grab the Fool's Gold. That's just gonna help us cast the Wish Upon a Star next turn. It's gonna give us additional gold to roll for good boys once we hit level 6. And overall, just more cash, I think, is a good place to be. Sometimes you don't want Fool's Gold when you're ahead, because that's going to limit your ability to find XP spells, but we already have all the XP that we need with this Wish Upon a Star, so definitely a great treasure to be picking up there. And then I don't know what else I'm going to wind up doing next turn. There's some interestingly powerful options here. We could pick up a pair of hippocampuses and try to build in that direction. There's also a pig and a wombat's in disguise, all very powerful characters. So we'll see what direction we wind up heading in. My opponent this round is super strong with a doubled up Telltale Quiver and also potentially that doubled up Boiling Beaker. So they're gonna beat us. We'll take a little bit of damage, but we're level 6, lobby leader, 30 health. Still feeling pretty good about all of our chances here. I'm just going to pick up the Wombats in Disguise and not worry about anything else in that shop, and then I'll roll down for the rest of the turn, and that's going to be it. We're just going to prep ourselves for hitting level 6, where we're going to do some good boy hunting, like I said, and we'll just try to pick up all the good boys, all the copycats, and see what we can make out of a board like that. So I think that that has decent chances to go pretty well for us, and we're looking pretty strong right now as well. We are going to wind up grabbing a tie here. It was close to grabbing a win if we had attacked into that Lancelot, but a tie, I'll take it. We're on 6.0. We've got 15 gold for the turn, 30 health, like I said, feeling pretty good. And when you're ahead like this, I think it's a great time to pick up Hercules. Try to grab a tier 6 treasure. There's a lot of fun things that you can do with that. Then after that, I wind up going for this Wombats. It's pretty good on the current board, especially if we can make like an upgraded one with the Lady of the Lake and stuff. So I just wind up throwing that back in, and then I actually cut the copycat for this combat because there's not really too much that we can copy. Hoping to just grab a treasure from this Hercules sooner rather than later, but I do think that playing a second Wombats here is pretty strong, and again, because we're Pied Piper, we're somewhat likely to find the triple of that, and we can grab a tier 5 treasure, which can be pretty powerful, so that's kind of the idea going there. Unfortunately, Robin Hood really hurts my Hercules there, and we only wind up getting like not even a full trigger onto it, so we're gonna need some more time to deliver with that. Interestingly, we get a Princess P or Empress P out of the Wombats in Disguise, and that gets to pump up the Lady of the Lake further, so that was a pretty sweet interaction. I'll pick up another copycat here, and then I do consider the Lancelot, but we find ourselves with our first good boy. Unfortunately, it's not a pumped up good boy, so that part is a little bit awkward, but a good boy nonetheless. I take a look at this board layout, and with just one good boy and then 2 neutral characters, I'm not actually super impressed with this board, so I think I'm going to wind up changing it around a little bit before we actually move into the brawl. Yeah, just one good boy like this. It's only really impressive if our jumping beans happen to land on the good boy. So I'm not going to worry about it, and I'm actually going to do something kind of weird. I'm going to put my copycats in slots 3 and 4 to maybe hit this wombats in disguise. But ultimately not going to stress out too much about getting these copycat activations. We are actually, and that's the other reason that makes the copycats weird is like, you might not have board space for them, which was part of my struggle with trying to fit them onto this board, but doesn't matter. We get the win, we get the kill onto the Mrs. Claus there. And now we are back to good boy hunting, though I'll also take copycats and I'll also take another wombat in disguise at this point. Gloves of Thieving, a pretty cool treasure, could potentially steal some good boys. That's kind of the idea behind picking this up. If your opponent is going to play good boy, most people aren't going to play copycat good boy, and good boy is going to be that first character that they have die. So maybe we can wind up snagging a good boy off somebody else, and then we are also going to snag the triple for wombats here. And Hand of Midas is a pretty cool treasure to pick up. Now we are really, really good boy hunting. We are only going to be picking up a good boy, so that way we can do that. And one other thing that's kind of cool here, when the copycat attacks, that'll give Hercules +4/+4, which means that Hercules can activate in one here. Now, my opponent playing a baby bear means that Hercules is going to be able to activate this turn regardless, but I just wanted to point out that I set that up like that. We are going to have a massive Humpty Dumpty in the front line. Unfortunately, our copycat's not going to be able to attack again, and then Wombats hatches into an Empress P. Unfortunately, this time not in front of the Lady of the Lake, but we are still more than big enough to get that win. Got a seat there. I mean, I don't know if you saw that. My opponent was still on 5.2. We were massively ahead on this lobby, and that is what is really going to cement the fact here that I am just looking for good boy. We're still at 30 health. Everybody else is just hitting 6.0, and Empress P is tempting to be able to grab an upgraded Empress P and throw that in front of the Lady of the Lake. But we're so far ahead, we can go for it. We can do some good boy hunting here. With this embiggening stone that we just picked up, we'll be able to find an upgraded good boy with +10/+10, and that just seems like a lot of fun to me. We're rolling past all of these copycats, all of these Empress Ps, and hopefully eventually we will find a good boy. We do have slightly better odds to find it, like I said, is Pied Piper. We also steal a Friendly Spirit here on this combat, so that one's kind of sweet, and we summon some nice units off this Wombats in disguise as well. My opponent looking pretty big though still. This is the Celestial Tiger that beat us a few turns ago. What's going to come out of the pumpkin? We only get one character, so I'm not super convinced we'll be able to win this one. Yeah, our Green Knight is large, but not bigger than my opponent's ranged characters, so wind up taking a little bit more damage from the Celestial Tiger here. And again, these copycats are tempting, especially now that I've picked up this upgraded Friendly Spirit, but I'm gonna hold out. We're good boy hunting, like I said, so let's go for it. They're showing me so many Empress Ps as well. Those probably also would have been a fine power spike and potentially enough to win the game. But then, like, what am I doing with my copycat? What am I doing with my... I guess you could still make wombats work. But I want to make use of this upgraded copycat and make use of my Pied Piper hero power. It does feel a little bit bad that I think I've rolled past 3 or 4 Empress Ps at this point. But eventually, hopefully, we will find that good boy. I'm thinking we got enough time. Still 18 health remaining, but let's see. We're up against Pan Shadow here. It does look like we're strong, but they attack right into our copycat there, so our only hope was for Friendly Spirit to land onto our Wombats in disguise, and it does. That gives us a mummy, and that's going to be enough to grab a tie on that combat, so pretty nice for us there. And then we finally find the good boy, and it is just in time too. We probably could not wait too much longer, but this gives us an upgraded good boy plus this upgraded copycat. I'll go for the Drink Me potion to try to find a few more spells to pump up this good boy here, and I'll give it a stone skin before rolling down a little bit more. I don't hate the soul tack here to be able to throw a little bit more protection onto the good boy, that could wind up being pretty relevant. So I'm gonna sell off two of my characters there. Just pick up this soul tack to protect the good boy, because if we get copycat attacking and using that good boy activation, I think that should be enough to win at this stage of the game. So hopefully all of that can go right. And then the other change that I make is I throw in the Hercules instead of the Wombats in Disguise, just because it's a good character and we have all of these good boys. And like I said, we have an opponent here with a first position good boy, so we're going to be able to steal that good boy, but are we going to be able to steal that win? And it's going to come down to what's in this pumpkin, because we've got a ranged Lady of the Lake and my opponent is not able to find any scams out of their pumpkin. So we are able to get the win there, which is really good. We take out a World Tree Horde Dragon and we steal a good boy from them. Now, even though their good boy was looking big, it was actually just a 2/2 because it was just pumped up by the World Tree. But we're able to find another 10/10 good boy in the shop, so that is enough to triple that, grab a tier 6 treasure, and I go for the Pandora's box. I figured even if I lose this combat, I'm probably not going to die. We're pretty strong, and then I will have a level 7 treasure next turn. So that seemed really sweet. I roll and then find another copycat, so we'll add that to the board, and now we are full copy boy. And I lock this shop because it has an Echo Wood, but I think we can just sell and pick up the Echo Wood right now. It's a little bit crazy, a little bit all in, but I'm gonna go for it here and see what we can do with this Copy Boy Echo Wood strategy. My opponent takes out my first copycat, which is actually great because that means my upgraded copycat gets to attack and we get to make some absolutely massive good boys. So this one wasn't close to being close. We take out my opponent and grab the win with this sweet little good boy board. Only 6 characters on the final board. No relevant treasures for the combat either, just good old-fashioned copycats and good boys. So that was a really sweet one, and typically I don't recommend going that far. Like, we spent one full turn with Fool's Gold just rolling and trying to find good boy, but we were so ahead over the rest of the lobby that I felt like we could get away with it. That is going to be it for me for this one. Trying to think if there's any other puns with being so far ahead and thinking you can get away with it and FTX. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm No Lex Given. Peace.